All right, housing's out. Two more intense grinds have come onto the scene, and nobody's going to have a furnished house for a month. But we might as well get started. So today, I'm actually going to show you a easy grind spot for finding blueprints. Now, these blueprints will, of course, be all the ones from every single race in the goddamn game. So it will be a very long time before you get a full set of, say, Nord. But that's another point entirely. Let's actually get to the grind in question. Now, this grind is called the Hollow City grind, or which is simply just the Cold Harbor grind. And what you do is that you run around the Hollowed City, and you simply just go from building to building, taking whatever. Now, interesting to know about this grind is that unlike recipes and motifs where they have specific drop locations, you can really just loot anything and it will be pertinent to housing. So if you look inside apple sacks, millet sack, and seasoning sacks, barrels, crates, nightstands, tables, even backpacks contain a chance to have these blueprint recipes. So you really want to look inside every single little thing. And not only just because you get the blueprints, but you also get a nice little addition of decorative wax, which is used in specifically provisioning based items. It can be used in other recipes, but it's primarily a provisioning based item. And what makes the Hollow City a particularly great grinding spot is that if you know anything about the Hollow City, is that really all of its native inhabitants have died off a long time ago, and you slowly fill it with just people you find in the surrounding area. So technically, it doesn't belong to anybody. So everything there is, even all the apple sacks, all the crates, backpacks, and desks, you can steal freely from with no repercussions. So you can just run around super quickly and just go from sack to sack to sack to sack and drain all of them for all of its various provisioning recipes, decorative wax, and those prime recipes that we need to actually fulfill our end of the bargain. So what I recommend that you do to grind the city is that you start at the bank, and then you just simply go in a counterclockwise fashion, going into each separate building. An interesting thing to note about the inn is that you can just jump off the top of that building. Once you're done with it, you don't have to go back down. That saves you a little bit of time. But then once you get past the inn, there's a little cart on the outside of the inn. You want to loot that too. But before you head downstairs into the second level, you can also go into the chapel where there is a couple of cabinets and backpacks and sacks on the first and basement floor, so definitely check those. You can go into the market area where all those various blacksmithing stations are. I really don't do it, but you can do it yourself. But what I do as soon as I head down from the chapel, I go back to where I was on the original loop, head down the stairs, and then I go into those various buildings around that area. But then you also want to go into the guild's hall because that place actually contains a buttload of various cabinets and barrels that you can actually loot, and those also have a chance to drop blueprint recipes. Then you exit out of that, go to the alchemist place, but there's also this weird little thing by the theater where you turn in writs at a specific level. I think that's the void steel level. It's where you turn it in, and you get the whatever you get for writs at that level. But there's also a couple of sacks and backpacks there by the place where you turn in those writs, so you can also loot those as well. But then you're going to want to go across the bridge, and across the bridge there is these guild stands. You're definitely going to want to loot those too. Those also have barrels, backpacks, and other things like that that can actually be looted as well. Still no repercussions for those either. And then there's just two more buildings to the left, and then two houses for various quest characters you find. All of those are just generic houses with items. You just go look in every single one. Make sure to also look behind counters, because there are quite a few stacks that are not tall enough to peek over counters. So look in there at some point. There's also the house you can go into that has a cage in it. On top of the cage there's a crate. You can jump up and touch that and actually loot it. So make sure you loot that consistently, but then you want to go back up the stairs. Don't go back into the chapel. It hasn't refilled yet. But then there's going to be the Enchanting Fighters Guild, I think, and the Alchemy Station or something like that. You're going to go in all three of those buildings, and you make sure you have that speed buff active from the Alliance War. First thing you can do, that will help this whole process out much better. Definitely if you're also a stamina character in medium armor, even better, because then you get all that natural speed buff. So you just want to go through all of those buildings, loot whatever you can. Make sure you go to the second floor of every building, if that building does have a second floor. I know buildings like, I think the bank or the enchanting station One of those two does not have a second floor, so don't even bother with that. But then you just want to go back up to the back to the bank and then deposit all your various recipes and motifs that you also find as well. I've actually found quite a few ancient elf, primal, and daedric motifs just trying to find blueprints. So that's going to be kind of interesting. You could probably try to sell those to guild vendors for whatever you need, or you can alternatively put them on alternative crafters and get their motif collection a little bit farther advanced so that they as well can get a higher chance to get master writs, which also are used in housing. Definitely worth a whole kit and caboodle to do this properly. And in the end, you should roughly get about 1 to 2 blueprints per run. And you're going to want to do this on 4 alternative characters, 4 alts, and then you just run around the big city, and then you deposit everything into the bank for your crafter. The thing is that why you want to have 4 alts is that because there is a 15 to 20 minute timer per item that you loot. So if you try to loot the same sack on the city, you can't really do that for quite a bit of time. So what you have to do is you have to go on to other characters, do the exact same type of looping grind, deposit, go on another character, do the looping grind, go on another character, and then by the time you've done the last 4th or 3rd character, it should have been roughly 10 to 15 minutes. And by that time, if you go back to the original character that you first started off with, everything should have respawned and you can then continue the grind on there. If you don't have these characters, just simply make them. You have enough slots in the base game to actually make these things, and you also want to make sure you have a decent amount of slots, because you will start to accumulate random things like shadow hide belts or just various pieces of equipment that is worth 0 gold. On top of that, you'll also accumulate a massive amount of lockpicks. So just make sure you have the inventory space to actually do this grind, because it will be very extensive. But once you're done with that, like I said, deposit everything back in the bank and then continue on your merry way. So hopefully this little grind spot was very helpful. I've used this consistently for a couple of hours and I've gotten plenty of blueprints, although not the ones I want. I still got some, I can't complain. But until then, guys, I think that should be it. Make sure if you have any comments or questions about grinding spots or any questions about housing in general, I can answer them to the best of my ability down in the comments below. Other than that, guys, just make sure to follow, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.